Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whenever you're watching or listening to this, and welcome to Link Up Leaders, your direct link to leaders in supply chain and e-commerce. My name is Lisa Kinski. Oh no, we lost our background. We're trying a few new things on the show if you guys are watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, and I done goofed it up, but oh well. First chance, you always get a little bit of leniency for mess ups, right? Anyway,
That's
good morning.
First time seeing it.
I know. Well, yeah, because I changed everything. When you give me free reign of the show, I'm going to take it.
That's yours.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lisa Kinski. I'm your producer and co-host, and joined as always by Francois Geoffrey. Francois, how are you today, dear?
I'm doing great. Well rested. Good. Had a long day yesterday, but feel great today. So
you had the longest day yesterday. My God.
It was only an 11-hour drive from Atlanta to Pittsburgh, and then 7 a.m. meeting at the construction. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. It is what it is.
With a 20-minute notice of that 11-hour drive, let the people know your commitment to it is like.
Well, here's the thing. I think just like I've said on many other podcasts, in supply chain right now, a lot of people can see them as problems or they can see them as opportunities. And so that was an opportunity for me to be here, make sure everything went smoothly.
That's true.
Supply chain today is not what it was last year.
No.
You gotta pick up in 20 minutes and go wherever you need to go.
No, and supply chain isn't, e-commerce isn't, really nothing is. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about a little bit today with our esteemed guest. We have, I'm very excited to say, Tim Jordan. And Tim, I must first start by congratulating you. AMPM podcast was listed on Takeometrics Best E-commerce Podcast for 2021. So a round of applause for you and your show. That's amazing.
Well, great. It's weird. Right before we got on, my personal assistant sent me that link. I had no idea until about 5 minutes ago. Yeah.
They didn't tell you?
No, it just, no.
Well,
that's awesome.
I was going to ask if they just find people or if you nominate yourself, because we'd love a little 2022 spot if we can make that happen.
No, it was not a pay to play. It was not a nominate yourself and kiss the right butts. I don't know. I guess it was the real deal. So that's kind of cool.
Just stellar content. Well, congratulations. That's fantastic. Thanks. And we're thrilled to have you here. It's definitely an honor. So let's just go ahead and get into the meat of it. For anybody who doesn't know you or your show or any of the, like I said, you have a finger in every pie. For anybody who doesn't know you, go ahead and just give us a little bit of background about yourself.
I was just a blue collar firefighter paramedic for most of my professional career. Found e-commerce by accident in about 2015, and things just went crazy after that. I started sourcing a lot of stuff for the U.S. government, which led to really great wholesale opportunities, which led to accidentally figuring out you can sell on Amazon. I quickly started a company based in China and the U.S. We did sourcing and logistics and 3PLs here in the U.S. Then we set up shop in Central America, sourcing products there. That business I ended up basically selling about 2 years ago, but it taught me a lot of stuff, right? And just seeing what works, what doesn't work when it comes to product selection, product development, e-commerce, the platforms that you use, all that good stuff. So I started doing a lot of content, kind of begrudgingly. I didn't really think I'd ever be a content guy, but do a lot of content now. And I've partnered with some of the big names in the industry and done some collaborations. Like I did Project X with Helium 10, which is, I think, the biggest case study that anybody's ever done in at least the Amazon space. Like you said, I host the AMPM podcast. I have the Private Label Legion, which is a community that I partner with Norm Farrar, and most everybody, knows Norm and his giant luscious beard and all that good stuff. And then what a lot of people don't know is I work behind the scenes as like an executive strategist for a lot of other service companies in the space. So I do that on a consulting role, but I get to, kind of see under the hood of a lot of the things that drive this industry, which is pretty neat. And I get to learn a lot. I'm deep into the fintech space now. I'm deep into the acquisition space. I'm deep into the software space now that I never thought I would be. So, I never know what I'm going to do day by day. It's always different. And I'm still launching and selling my own brands. I've got 2 brands that I'm launching the third quarter of this year. And one of them I expect to be a $10 million brand within like 24 months. So it's pretty cool.
Wow. Do you sleep?
Man, I'll be honest with you. I sleep amazingly. I'm like an old man. I go to sleep every night at 9 p.m. and I
Good for
begrudgingly
you.
wake up at 6. So I get like 8 or 9 hours of sleep. I figured, if I'm one of those guys that stays up late at night and don't get enough sleep, then the next day I'm just awful. So I get my sleep in and just try to work really, really hard during the day.
That's awesome. That's some solid sleep hygiene. Good for you. Because I would never be able to do all that and sleep a full 8. I'd be up constantly.
Well, I didn't say I do all of it well. It's on my list, but it doesn't mean my to-do list ever gets done.
We can bleep that part out for the service providers that contract you for the strategy.
Right. Well, hey, they know. They already know. It's pretty obvious.
Oh man. Well, there's so much to unpack there. I have so many questions. One, going back, you said that you started sourcing products out of Central America. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So when I was sourcing products, this is still as a firefighter. My part-time job is I was. You ever seen the movie War Dogs?
No.
Jonah Hill
Oh,
and
have you not seen that?
Okay, you don't get to talk about good movies that haven't been seen, Francois.
Great. All right. Great movie, and a lot of listeners will have seen that. Well, if you watch that movie, that was essentially me back in 2012, 2013. I wasn't doing military stuff. I wasn't doing weaponry, but I was doing everything from diesel generators to concrete to Russian dump truck tires, selling it to the U.S. State Department in the Middle East. And we started sourcing a bunch of stuff out of China. And at one point, I realized, hey, I can take these sources and take these products and take the wholesale brands I had access to in the U.S. and put them on Amazon. And I quickly realized, like, I need to build my own products, build my own brands, have my own supply chain. So I started selling private label on Amazon. It went pretty big. But at one point, I started looking around as well, like Tom's shoes. That was one of the first big epiphanies I had. Tom's shoes are crappy shoes. They're canvas with really crappy, rubber leather soles. Did I lose you guys?
You
it
froze
is
up
a
for
little
just
bit choppy.
Yeah. Oh no, I think there's a delay now.
I don't know what's happening. Oh, there we go. Okay, got it. Well, we'll keep going. Hopefully it works.
Wow, he fell all the way off. Oh no.
Boy, that's the joy of doing this live.
I know. Live streams in the days of COVID. For a second, I thought it was me because I got in the pod room and it told me no internet.
We got
Welcome
him back.
I don't know what happened.
He's everywhere. Bizarre. He's everywhere.
I'm everywhere. So, sorry about that for all of you listening live, but I don't know what you missed, but my big epiphany was with Tom's shoes, which are just crappy canvas and rubber shoes, but they were selling like crazy. Oh, yeah. Right. And they were selling for $60. And it was because they had a story of buy a pair, give a pair. So I thought it would be exceptionally cool to try to replicate a story brand. And I started looking for manufacturers in Central America specifically.
Gotcha. So it wasn't that there was a specific product or material that was better produced in Central America. You were going much for the brand recognition and the brand building and story aspect.
Yeah, and I knew that there was definitely some advantages with some products. We might be able to get really nice handmade stuff, organic stuff. I figured out, Central America is really good for textiles, leathers, ceramics, organic coffee, and wooden products. And I'd also, done some like humanitarian work in Central America and fell in love with that region of the world some years before, dating back as far as college. So I started thinking, hey, if we can support this economy down there and support these artisans, which are, in developing countries, impoverished areas, plus I could add the brand like Tom Shoes did or Warby Parker with their glasses. We could add increased value to these products. It's only a 2-hour flight away, so I can go see my suppliers. And I thought, hey, this is just really, really cool. And at the time, we were starting to see a lot of press and a lot of news about, the migrant problem, coming from Central America to the U.S. And, the hot topic was, should we build a wall or should we not? And I thought, the solution is not to decide, do we build a wall or not? The solution is to create job opportunities, create capitalism, create wealth down there. So the project went on for about 2 years. It eventually was not something that I could continue doing just because there were so many difficulties in manufacturing and there was just such little infrastructure there that we would send money down to buy wood for one of our suppliers, and one of the employees would take the truckload of wood and sell it for $25 to feed his family. It was a mess. So the company still operates. I actually gave that separate company to my employees down there. I had in Guatemala City a team that ran that company. And they still operate for several brands that we got connected with. And that kind of led me to India. So now, I started getting interested in India because I thought, hey, some of those same handmade attributes, but able to actually scale up. So I've sourced all over the place. I've even had my own manufacturing facility in the US. So I was making my own stuff in the US with my own employees, sourcing from China, Guatemala, Honduras, India, Philippines. I've sourced all over.
Wow, all over the place. I assume you have a team helping you with this, whether it be VAs or domestic.
Yeah. I've got an office. I've got full-time staff, and I definitely could not get it all done myself.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean that's that's one of the biggest complaints I would say from a lot of businesses that are looking into South America and Central America is just the supply chain infrastructure that they don't have developed yet.
Yep.
Obviously, India does, but what would you say some of the major differences in products between China and India are? Because I know with Private Label Legion, part of your initiative is to actually take groups to China to actually meet manufacturers. And I think you were working with Megla at one point to do something similar for India. Is that right?
So you're about 80% there.
Okay.
We do take groups to China, and we teach them how to do business in China and how to find products. And we go to like the world's largest market, and we dig around and find product opportunities. It's amazing. We're starting those back up in 2022. We have people, we're not even advertising. We have people begging us to pay deposits right now to get signed up for the 2022 trip, which we don't even know exactly when it's going to be. We just know we're shooting for April. Megla is a really good friend of mine, and she does something kind of similar in India, and it's completely hers. It's her trip. It's her project. I just go and help, I guess, as a coach, right? I just kind of tag along and enjoy the fun. When it comes to the difference between China and, you asked about India, but I'll say anywhere. This is my official statement. 80% of the world is made in China right now, and that's not going to change anytime soon. And it's because China has had 100-year head start to become the manufacturing center of the world. They've got the technology, they've got the engineering staff, they've got the skilled labor, they've got the logistics set up, they've got the supply chain for raw materials set up. They're just really, really good. And it's the same reason even like US-based companies like Apple will continue to make iPhones in China. They're just better. Right? Everybody, the headlines like, we have to bring manufacturing back in the US. How are we going to do that? We don't have the machinery anymore. We don't have the factories anymore. We don't have the skilled labor anymore. We don't have any of that stuff. Like it doesn't work. India is very interesting because it's massive, right? The population is just giant. There's a huge workforce. That workforce is becoming much more highly educated, than a lot of developing countries. The labor rate is still very inexpensive compared to most places in the world. So you can get inexpensive labor and low production costs. The area that India is not caught up with yet is advanced, like very advanced technical manufacturing, right? They're not doing a lot of very technical things, right? So it's hard to find very specific latex injection molding factories there. It's hard to find CNC manufacturers there for metal. It's hard to find electronics manufacturers, right? But what they do well are the very high-end but less complex products. So like a couple years ago, fall before COVID, I went over there with Megan on her trip. And man, some of the most beautiful furniture you've ever seen, mixing textiles and just gorgeous woods and just like the most high-end leather you've ever, amazing stuff, right? A lot of metals, a lot of rustic stuff, a lot of handmade stuff, a lot of almost some of the same products like you'd see in Central America, but at a much higher quality level and much more scalable. Now they're still struggling a little bit like in the way of logistics or speed. Culturally, things just go a little bit slower in India than they do China, right? So if you think, hey, I can get my production done in China in 30 days and have it shipped and land in 30 days in the US or 25 days, you might as well double that for India. All right. Now there's some advantages. Obviously, there's some products that are worth waiting for, but they're struggling a little bit. And a lot of the raw materials still come out of China. So if I'm ordering a textile with a zipper from India, yeah, I might have the most amazing organic cotton that's grown and woven and produced and cut and sewn in India. But the zippers or the metal hardware are probably coming from China still. right? So that takes some time because those products have to be imported into India before the final assembly of my product can be done. So there's still a few hiccups, but India, I think, is coming along really, really well. And then I think behind India, the unsung hero is Brazil.
Interesting.
What type of products do they have in Brazil? Or I guess specialties. Did we lose them again?
I think we may be having some sort of delay.
Well, Brazil is actually an upcoming.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. Are we back now?
Yeah,
I think so.
Let me know when I'm back.
You're back for us, but I think there's a big old delay.
Oh man, I don't know what's going on the internet today. But you asked something about Brazil, I think I heard.
Yeah, just what specialties do they have in Brazil that companies can kind of consider when they are considering maybe this China Plus One initiative?
Well, Brazil is starting to ramp up faster than anybody else with the technologically advanced manufacturing. So when it does come to your synthetic materials like your rubbers, your latexes, your metals, they have the advanced machining capabilities for that. They're also upcoming really fast in electronics. Like if you start to see a lot of your consumer electronics products like battery packs and TVs and microchips and microprocessors, Brazil is coming on strong. And Brazil has a huge workforce. It's a good infrastructure, logistically, power grid, all that stuff. And it's a highly educated country. And when you think about all of South America, I mean, that's massive population. So Brazil quietly has been like manufacturing for South America for a very, very long time. And now they're starting to actually focus on exports, and other places and other industries are starting to recognize them as a potential leader in that space. And you think about especially the proximity to US, instead of a 16-hour flight to Shenzhen from New York, you can go from Miami down to Brazil in just a few hours, meet with suppliers, manufacturers. You're in the same time zone, which is nice. And logistically, it's actually a lot easier to ship from, the northern half of South America up to, the East Coast or West Coast. So I think there's an opportunity there. It's, again, China's still going to remain the king for probably 2 decades, but Brazil's coming on strong.
Well, and to give a little bit of love back to Megla, she's gotten a few shout outs on the show. She is watching live, saying she went with you on your trip to China, and super fun, very educational, highly recommend. So if you didn't already have a ton of people asking to make deposits for 2022, she's trying to get you some more.
Yeah, I mean that visit directly to manufacturers is one thing that I think a lot of companies do lack. And I've always advocated. I don't know if you remember, but a few years back, I met you at Prosper ASD, and after you had given a talk, and the talk itself was about a syringe, I think, that you had, and negotiating with your supplier. And when you negotiated successfully, they made it too thin and it ended up busting. I forgot exactly how that went, but I think that was the moral of your story. But when we met after that and you told me a little bit more about your initiative and why you take people to China, it all clicked, where it was like, you can't really, you can't get the same level of relationships through the screen as you can when you go. And you need someone experienced when you do go. Otherwise, it's not that they would take advantage of you, but you seem a lot more professional when you do have more of that guidance. So I've always been a strong advocate for Private Label Legion and actually going on those groups. An awesome story back at Prosper a few years back too. It was memorable. So.
Well, and I forget in the beginning of your story, because there was so much there. You said you fell into e-com what year?
About 2015.
2015. Okay. So there was definitely a different landscape back then, but you're still launching successful brands. Are they all in the same category, or are you kind of spreading that across?
It is completely random. Completely
okay.
Random. And I'll tell you, and that was kind of the theme that we were going to talk about today, is finding products in this world of saturation. Back in 2015, the analogy I jokingly give is, you could put a cat turd in a brown paper bag and sell it on Amazon for $50 and people would have bought it. You could have ranked for anything in 2015, 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a lot of mistakes buying, products that became saturated. I was one of the first guys to sell a Moscow Mule mug.
Oh, yes.
And that went great for about 6 weeks. I used to go and buy these like cheesy, like vegetable slicers and, just the typical Alibaba crap. And then when I was working with other people sourcing their products and shipping their products, I would see what worked and what didn't. And I realized we have to quit finding products to sell on Amazon by looking on Amazon. Right. So I started like playing around with the idea of finding stuff on other social media sites or other marketplaces or other locations and be the first one to bring it to Amazon if there's demand. Right. So that created what I call the Yeti principle, which I've got a YouTube video. You can search Tim Jordan Yeti principle to get the run on that. But figuring out that, only 20% of the world's products are on an e-commerce platform or marketplace. Like, let's figure out what people are looking for that's not there already, instead of just competing with everybody on the same old crap.
Mm. And so when you do that, I know you mentioned that you look at other social medias. Do you look at the analytics behind it, or do you just look at sort of if there's any level of hype behind the products? Oh, might have had a delay there.
Say that last part again. We still have that delay.
Yeah. Basically, do you look for what analytics do you look for when you are looking at products on other social media platforms?
So basically what I do is I'm looking for these product opportunities and attaching keywords to them, right? Because if I have the coolest product in the world, but I don't know what people are going to call it, if I don't have a keyword that represents it, it's going to be hard to sell, because you sell keywords on a marketplace. You don't actually sell products. And then I use analytics tools like Helium 10 and go and see, are people looking for these keywords? One of the best examples I give is the fidget spinner. I was in Yiwu, China, and everybody was talking about these things. Everyone had them. It was giving me samples. I was taking samples and playing with them while I walked around the market. And everybody said, it's going to be a big seller. It's going to be a big seller. And I went back to my hotel room and I pulled up Jungle Scout. And Jungle Scout essentially looks at existing sales to determine if it's a win or not. I hate that. I call it the Jungle Scout method. I have a problem with that. And I basically saw that nobody was selling or buying fidget spinners on Amazon. I thought, well, this must be a terrible product idea then. So I didn't do anything with it. And then a year later, I realized I could have been like the first guy selling fidget spinners on Amazon. But my mistake was I was looking at what was selling, not what people were looking for. If I could go back to that time, I would have looked at keyword demand and seen how many people are searching fidget spinner, not how many people are selling them or buying them, but how many people are searching for it. And I could have found that difference between what people are looking for and what's being offered, right? So the analytics that I do very, very strongly is, just keyword search volume. What are people searching for that's not being offered, in the correct format or the correct quality or, enough options? And I try to get there first. But I also don't like to sell something unless there is keyword demand. Otherwise, you're just putting something up that nobody is going to know to look for, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you do find that product on social media where it is something, hey, it's not on Amazon, has good keyword search volume, what's the next step with supply chain? Because you have your hands in, let's say, India and China and Central America, looking into Brazil. How do you know which one to choose, and sort of how do you start your research process on suppliers?
Well, just because I understand the different country strengths, I know when I'm looking at a product, this is probably going to be a China product or probably going to be an India product, right? And then I have just different resources in each country that help me find this stuff, right? And I usually put out a lot of requests. If I have a product that's an injection molded latex product and I know, hey, this is going to be China, I'll send that to 3 or 4 sourcing agents and a few factories I know and just see who comes back to me, right? But there's no like definitive rule on who I send that to. I'm sending it to multiple people. If I have a wooden product, I'm probably going to send it to some people in India, some people in China, and some people in Central America that I still have contact with. Just see, hey, who's interested in this? What materials can we get? And materials matters too. Even if it's wood, if I want mango wood, that's going to be an India or a China product because mango wood doesn't grow on this side of the world, right? But if I want something that's oak, I'm probably looking in the Americas somewhere, right? Because that doesn't grow in Asia. So there's a lot of variables, and it's just education. It's just poking around, figuring this stuff out, and you start to figure out patterns of what needs to be produced, where, when, and how.
So you kind of give it that high level overview, the thought in the background. But what I find the most intriguing out of that is that you utilize your knowledge in supply chain, which is one thing. It's a big reason as to why we started this podcast to talk about specifically e-commerce and supply chain. It's the most unsexy topic, but is the most important topic every single time. And it's not just, the sexy topic of negotiating with suppliers, but it's, well, what strengths does India have? Does China have? Mango wood probably better in India than even in China, for example. And so it's funny that you mentioned that you use sourcing agents, because a lot of sellers, when they will try to, come at this as they're scaling up, they try to use those same principles when they first started, of visiting every single supplier that they possibly can, or reaching out, sending 20 questionnaires to different suppliers on Alibaba, and hoping one of them responds. So no, I appreciate you giving your insight on that too.
Sure.
But in regards to, getting the actual product from the suppliers, even, I know you have your resources, you have your sourcing agents, you have likely manufacturer direct connections. What is sort of that process that you go through with those factories? Are you negotiating MOQ? Are you negotiating target pricing off the bat? What conversations do you have with them? I'd love to pick your brain on that aspect too.
I don't really like target pricing. I don't like it because I want to know what it's going to cost to get what I want. If I start with target pricing, they're going to try to tell me what they can give me for the price that I want. And a lot of times it's going to be diminished quality, or it's going to be something like that. And my opinion is, if you are selecting a product 100% based on price, you're probably messing up. I talk to people all the time that sell a product and they say, hey, I thought this product was going to be good, but the tariffs went up 5%, so it's not profitable anymore. Or the PPC cost went up by 10%. Folks, if a 10% increase in PPC or a 5% increase in tariffs makes the difference between profitable or non-profitable, you're selling the wrong dang product. You should have enough margins to be able to handle that, right? And same with manufacturing. If someone comes to me with a quote of $3 a unit and I really need it to be at $2.80 a unit, there's something fundamentally wrong there, right? Because I'm probably trying to sell something that's too low of margin. If I can't increase my price and still sell it by an extra 20 cents a unit or 30 cents a unit, right? Then I'm doing something wrong. Also, relationships to me are more important than pricing. I can go in and I can be the same old guy that goes to every manufacturer and beats them up on price and tries to negotiate a lower price, and, haggles. And well, that's a pain in the butt to them. And what I'm figuring out, especially about Chinese manufacturers, are oftentimes I need them more than they need me, right? And that was something I had to adjust my reasoning and my train of thought in when it came to supplying suppliers in China. Because I used to go to China and, I'm the big bad gringo. I'm paying your paychecks. I'm keeping you busy. You're gonna, basically bend to my will and let me negotiate pricing and let me get you to speed up. And you go over there to these little bitty towns in China with nothing but dirt roads, and all the factories have like 20 Porsches parked out in front. And you walk in and they're doing huge orders for, big brands, and they don't need my little piddly 2,000 unit order. And if I'm trying to beat them up for another 10 cents here, another 20 cents here, they're just going to get frustrated and say, this guy's not worth my time, because they're doing orders of 20,000 units and they're not having to go through those crazy negotiations. So for me, those relationships and those suppliers are more important than saving an extra 5% on my product. Man, I just roll with it. I get a quote from them. If it works for me, it works. I'm not going to try to beat them up. I don't do any of this manipulative stuff, that a lot of people advocate for. I don't do that. And if I can't find something that's priced in a way that I'm going to make profit on, I just go to the next product. I find something else.
Wow.
I was gonna say that's funny to hear, because I think a lot of I don't want to generalize, but that's kind of the American mentality of like, you need my business, and it's nice to hear that you kind of learned quickly, like, no, they don't.
Yeah, they don't.
No, they sure don't.
Yep.
And I think we saw in 2020, especially even, I mean, definitely this year, but definitely in 2020 with everything going on, that the relationships really mattered way more than the pricing. I mean, today you're seeing logistics pricing that's 3 to 10 times higher than it was this time last year or 2 years ago, even. With a good relationship, you can get better payment terms. You can negotiate, they can hold more units in their warehouse that's already branded for you, and you might not have to pay for it immediately. I mean, we've seen that just take off. The relationships matter. How do you build, how do you establish and build the relationships though? Because when someone is coming in with a product and with the pricing, I think it's very easy to be transactional. It's very easy to say, hey, this is exactly what I need, and I need it at this price. If you can't do it, instead of going to the next product, I'm just going to go to the next factory, flipping every rock essentially. So what sort of conversations do you have with them to sort of kick off?
Well, it does all start transactionally. I mean, that's the basis, is you start transactionally. Hey, this is who I am. This is my company. I'm trying to get some pricing here. If they show me any interest at all, like, then I'll start building rapport with them by just being polite, just having a little respect, like live by the golden rule. Hey, thanks for this quote. Not, well, gosh, you couldn't send this to me yesterday. Try to make the job as easy for them as possible. Don't send vague requests that's going to make them try to guess what I want. Do my homework first, send as much information to them as I can on a request for quote. Just little nice things. Please, thank you. I've learned, like, specifically in China, that it's very polite to ask them personal questions. Hey, how long have you worked in this industry? Do you have a family? Where do you actually live? Do you have children? And when I show just a little bit of humanity in a world where all of the requests they get are just purely transactional, then they respect that and they love that. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is a real person. When I go to China, I meet with as many people as I can. I take them to dinner. I let them take me to lunch. Chinese New Year, I send a ton of gifts to China. Even if it's people that I've never transacted with, but I've had a lot of conversation with them, like we haven't found a great fit, a potential shipping partner, a potential sourcing partner, or a potential manufacturer. I'll send them just a gift on Chinese New Year and say, hey, I appreciate that quote you gave me. Hope you have a great next year. And now I know that if I WeChat them or if I send them an email, they will answer it. So like, hey, that guy's a pretty good dude, right? Mm-hmm. The world is full of turds, so to speak, right? And like, life is short. And I think that people just want to be, people want to experience less drama, and people want to experience less headaches, right? So when you're just a nice person and you make their job easy for them, and you show just a little bit of respect, I think that goes a long way in kind of emotional credit, right? And that's how I built some of my best brands, even, is having these relationships with manufacturers. And they'll reach out to me, hey, I got a clue that the factory next to us is starting to produce this. Can I connect you with them? Or, hey, we have a client that's been buying this, but they're canceling their orders because they're changing industries, but here's how many they sold. Do you think there's an opportunity for you to pick this brand up? Right? Like, just little stuff like that I suspect nobody else is getting that kind of treatment.
It's a lot of who you know.
Yeah. It's a lot of just decency is everything that you described. It's the politeness, the kindness that goes along with it. I mean, at the end of the day, they want you to grow. They want you to keep coming back. And when they see that you're being polite, it's how you're going to handle those tough situations together also, right? If you're yelling at them over 5% and you have a big issue with an order that maybe they misproduced something, maybe there was a quality issue, maybe their raw material supplier screwed something up, so it delays it. It's all about how is that going to be handled? And if you start that early on, you are going to get those better handling of situations. They are going to tell you up front, hey, this happened. This is what we're doing to correct it. Instead of just, hey, this happened, whatever, because they don't want to deal with you. That's the reality of it. In India, do you find something similar to that in regards to, just those relationships being built that way? Are they as open as they are in China?
Yeah, I think that India is just as strongly influenced by relationships for sure. But remember, it's not just about being a nice guy. It's also about understanding, right? It's understanding them. So I know in India, things are going to move slow. That's just, it's going to. So I don't get my panties in a wad when it moves slow, right? So to be respectful to your suppliers and to start building those relationships, you really have to understand your suppliers culturally. You have to understand them personally. So invest some time trying to figure out, hey, if I'm going to start sourcing from Vietnam, what are things like in Vietnam? Go get a Vietnam sourcing education. That way you have realistic expectations. Because if I go in, you know, bull in a China shop thinking I understand how something's going to work, then a lot of times the problem is me. I'm going to be the problem. If there's a breakdown in communication because I didn't have realistic expectations, right? Or if there's a breakdown in relationship, it's probably something I did, right? Or likely something I did. So I also, you know, tell people all the time, start off by heavily educating yourself in a certain region or certain type of product or a certain type of manufacturing system. That way I'm less likely to cause a problem.
No, I love that too. And when it comes to relationships, I mean, it's priceless what you can build with them. But going back to a little bit about the diamond in a rough, because I was just looking at the title and I have to ask, like, what would you consider a diamond? What would you consider a product being successful? I know you don't sell products, you sell keywords, but what would you consider successful with that?
Successful is a product that people want, that not everybody else is offering it, you know, just an unsaturated product. It is a product that I don't have to use black hat methods to rank. You know, it's a product that I can just put it up there and it legitimately sells. I don't have to go through some big convoluted marketing process. I just list it and it happens. Now, do I agree in building brands and, you know, off Amazon traffic? Of course I do. But the basis is, what do people want that people aren't being offered? And I see it all the time. I see products that are easy to manufacture. They're not going to have a lot of returns. They're not going to have a lot of breakages, and people are just looking for them and can't find them. If you go like look at Project X, I did it with Helium 10. That was a great example. Like products that people have wanted for years and nobody's figured it out. You know, there's just not a lot of competition. Those diamonds are really based on just demand versus competition, not necessarily based on the product themselves. When I said I sell all sorts of random stuff, you know, for a number of years before I exited this specific company, I was selling a woman's shoe accessory. I know nothing about women's shoes, nothing. And I didn't build a brand around it. I didn't, you know, create some big, long brand story. And I didn't, you know, have tons of variations. It was just this thing that I bought for 80 cents and sold for $19.99 on Amazon. And it was like darn near indestructible. That was a diamond for me. I just found something people wanted, wasn't being offered. Now, there are other brands where I build out a huge brand story and a huge catalog. Like, there's a lot of different ways of doing it. But I think that some people get their, priorities backwards. They don't even know what product they're going to sell on a marketplace, but they're already like, oh, this is my story. This is my vision. This is the brand I want to build. I'm going to trademark these logos and I'm going to start getting my social media ready. I'm like, but you don't even know what you're going to sell. Like, figure out what will sell, figure out what that diamond product is, you know, that diamond in the rough that will sell itself. And then if it makes sense to expand that, then build a brand around it and add more products in the category and all that stuff. If it doesn't make sense to keep building that, like the shoe accessory, just go find the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, because Amazon is 18 months slower than everything else on social media. You know, people are posting. This morning, I was looking for a gift for Norm, for my partner. I'm going to see him in Vegas in a couple of weeks, right? Haven't seen him in like 2 years in person, year and a half. And I was looking on Amazon. There's nothing on Amazon close to what I wanted. It's actually a pipe accessory, you know, like a smoking pipe, like a tobacco pipe. Norm and I love cigars, and I'm going to buy him I hope he's not listening. I was going to surprise him. Buy him his first really nice pipe. And I wanted to find a leather carrying case for it, like a really cool bougie, you know, leather. It's called a pipe roll. And I looked on Amazon, it was a bunch of junk. Well, then I went to Etsy. And on Etsy, there's a million really super nice ones and variations I've never seen. And I'm going to buy one off Etsy. Well, there are a million people like me that are going and looking potentially for that product on Amazon. But that's just a great example, literally an hour ago, of, hey, Amazon is slow. People are looking for this, but it's not being offered here. So I can go somewhere like Etsy, get some great ideas, and maybe I'll find a product opportunity there and be the first one to take it to Amazon.
It almost seems it's almost hard to believe that there's products that aren't on Amazon, right? Because with all the new sellers joining every day and all the products that are there, it almost seems like there shouldn't be anything that's not on Amazon. But that's a perfect example of something that either isn't or it's garbage quality. And I was going to ask, other than social media, where do you go to find these diamonds in the shoe accessory? I have a theory of what that shoe accessory is, and I'm so curious to know if I'm right. I'll ask you when we get off the live stream. But
so when you do, let's say you're looking for this product on Amazon and it's just not on Amazon, and do you use, did I hear it right, at least, Helium 10 for the keyword research and not Jungle Scout? I don't want to cause any controversy, but I want to just be clear.
Yeah. Well, and the example is not between Jungle Scout and Helium 10 is not necessarily which software is better, but which method is better. And, I mentioned the Jungle Scout method, which is, let's see what everybody else is selling and see if we can sell it too. I like that. Where, the reason I started using Helium 10 initially was it had better tools for actual keyword research. What are people looking for? Not what are people selling, right? And I think that's the difference. We need to find what people want, not just find another Me Too product that everybody else is selling and see if we can maybe convince ourselves that by increasing the picture quality, we're actually going to be able to compete. That doesn't work. It used to work 5 years ago. Those days are over, right? We have to be original. We have to find something unique. We have to find something that's actually in demand.
I wonder if there's still a lot of those training courses that maybe haven't updated since like 5 years ago.
They are everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah. I've definitely changed my view on the training courses a little bit since talking to a few of the coaches, but I still think, I mean, it's a good baseline, but I don't think it's something that you can solely build your entire business around that training course, which is why I love these conversations, for example.
Yep.
And then for those that are scaling up, because I can't help but notice every single time that I look down at you, the seller's funding right behind you.
Yeah.
It's great placement for them. But when you are scaling up, let's say, and you do find that diamond in the rough, what options are there for funding and how does that work when you are, let's say you have that hero product that you want to test out? Are you able to go get funding for that, or do you have to test it out with whatever capital, sort of the Gary V method, we could call it, the garage sales, the retail arbitrage, the wholesale, the online retail, all that side? What options are there for funding?
Well, there's a lot of options for funding in business in general. There's not a ton of options for e-commerce sellers. And that's one reason why I started consulting for sellers funding, just because I believed in them. I believed they had something unique. But and then I actually became their chief growth officer. And at the end of July, I'm stepping down to just back to a consultancy role for them. But even though I love them and I would represent them, I don't think that people will need to borrow money to try stuff out. I think there's a responsible time to accrue debt, and that's for infrastructure development or purchasing more inventory. I don't like people playing with things and experimenting and trying to sell something with someone else's money, because if it doesn't work, you're still on the hook for that. The good news is I don't think you have to have a ton of money to try stuff. You don't. You could experiment with small order quantities, even if it's not the super custom branded, version that you want. You can dabble a little bit, get your feet wet, become convinced, hey, this is going to work, and then scale up afterwards. But I tell people all the time, don't get a hunch that you have a product that people are going to want and go buy 3,000 units or 2 containers of this thing and try to sell it, because you might get stuck with it. Measure twice, cut once, go slow. Slow is much better than fast, right? Despite what Ricky Bobby says. I firmly believe, it's better to take your time, be more conservative, and make sure that things are going to work before you invest too heavily in a specific product.
And I do want to unpack one statement that you have, because I want to make sure that anyone listening doesn't take it the wrong way, where you mentioned you can experiment with lower quantities, but it's not going to have the same customizations that you want. What do you mean exactly by that?
I think that there are products that people want right? People want the base product, and we can test if we're going to be able to convert, or we're going to test if the keywords are in demand without going full blown custom, right? And I know that goes against the grain of most private label training, which is anybody can sell a garlic press as long as you have the best silicone handle. No, it's not about going and buying 5,000 garlic presses with a slightly different color silicone handle. I like finding something that, even if it's not the extreme quality that I want, or the perfect customized packaging, or fully customized with my brand, emblazoned all over this thing, if people want it, they're going to buy it. So a lot of times I'll actually find something maybe that is on social media, on Pinterest, and I can go and I can buy 20 or 30 of these things off of Etsy, and they're not on Amazon. I can buy 20 or 30 of someone else's similar product on Etsy, post them on Amazon myself, see if they sell. And if they do sell, then I'll go out and buy 1,000 of them custom made, in India or China or somewhere like that. But I don't have to just have a hunch and go straight to buying 1,000 or 2,000 things and hope they sell. I can dabble and test it with a little bit different version than what my total vision is, but at least gives me an opportunity to dip my toes in at a much lower investment and much lower risk. If that makes sense. That's just one example.
Yeah. I mean, that's going back to testing the keywords and not the products necessarily, is what it sounds like. Well, shit, I had something to follow up with on that.
Brain farted.
Yeah. It was a long day yesterday. But when you do go to scale those up, is that something that you're solely relying on Amazon to sell? Oh, I remember it now. When you are listing the products on Amazon, do you list them all under like one storefront where you have a bunch of different random products, or do you have specific accounts for like a different type of category? Let's say all kitchen utensils in one Amazon store that you have. And how do you break that up?
If I have just random stuff, I put it all in kind of my random account. If I have something that starts to emerge as a potential brand builder, I'll create its own account. Then I'll trademark the brand name, and I'll migrate that stuff over to an account that I can eventually sell and exit from. But generally speaking, I don't think that every product has to have its own brand, has to have its own account. That's a big pain in the butt, right? The only time I would start to separate into a different account and different operational systems if I wanted a separate P&L sheet, if I wanted to be able to take and migrate that entire brand with a potential acquirer.
Which there's a lot of nowadays. So there's a lot of options for exiting.
It is a mess, that's for sure.
That's a whole separate hour-long conversation at the very least. But when you are scaling up your brands, is that sort of the goal? Is it more so to exit, or do you have any brands that you're looking to take international or onto other platforms?
There are definitely things that I am taking to other platforms. Right now, stinking Walmart is amazing.
I was going to ask.
Walmart's the unsung hero, in my opinion, and it's largely because they have the best logistics infrastructure, much better than Amazon's even. Because if you think about it, Walmart has a warehouse and a distribution center in every small town in North America. Think about that.
Essentially, yeah.
Right? And if you think about like which retail stores are moving fastest to e-commerce, especially like in post-COVID times, think about like the click and pick up. I can go on Walmart, place an entire order, and an hour later pull up in the parking lot and they put it in the back of my car. That's e-commerce. It is. Whether you like to think it, because I bought it online, is proving that they're ahead of the game. They bought jet.com 3 years ago and everybody thought, well, nothing's happening. They've just been building the infrastructure in the back end and kind of silently without people noticing.
Tim Jordan's hot take: Walmart's better than
Walmart.
Amazon. Yeah, for the logistics.
But when you are going to Walmart, I think a lot of businesses struggle with getting their heads around how Walmart operates online compared to Amazon. How is that transition when you tried sort of going from Amazon to Walmart? What are the differences?
Walmart is definitely not as advanced. Like, they've got a lot of features still to build out. It's still fairly new. It's a little bit harder to get set up in. They do a lot more due diligence to kind of keep the crappy sellers off. But the tools and the resources are coming, and they're coming fast. I actually have a personal relationship with Walmart. Like they've kind of tapped me as an advisor, so to speak. And like a lot of the conferences that are coming up, like Prosper and Retail X and ASGTG, I'm actually speaking about Walmart kind of with their stamp of approval. I won't say on behalf of them, but I collaborate with them and you know, they kind of keep me up to speed on what's going on. I think it's interesting because Amazon never really did that, right? But Walmart's trying to do it. So I think right now I would say Walmart's in its infancy. It doesn't have all of the bells and whistles, but the core function and the core structure is there. And another thing I like about Walmart is they're partnering with other e-commerce and other online venues, right? Or platforms. If I go and I search, you know, Fruit of the Loom's men's underwear on Google, like more than half of the top 10 results on Google Shopping are Walmart ads or Walmart listings. They're not Amazon listings. It's because Walmart has partnered with Google. Walmart has partnered with Shopify, right? Like they want to play in the ecosystem as part of the larger community, where Amazon tries to kind of stay off by themselves and stay siloed, if that makes sense. So I think that there's a big opportunity just in the way Walmart sees the rest of the community and the way that they can work with each other and work with you know, the broader online world as a whole, instead of trying to stay so separate.
Yeah, I think once those tools really come out, are you seeing any of the service providers that you are consulting for eye up Walmart and eye up, you know, what opportunities Walmart has presented?
Ask me in 6 months.
Okay.
There are some tools that are popping up, and I think the next 6 months, maybe even 4 months, you're going to be shocked at some of the things that are happening in our industry, because I think that service providers are recognizing that this is the next thing. Educators are recognizing this is the next thing. And it's going to be a much different landscape in 6 months than it is now, as far as opportunities, resources, and tools to actually migrate over and sell on Walmart.
Well, I think once they especially start to build those communities out, and I'm starting to get more requests to join them. Luckily, with the Facebook groups, Amazon has such this awesome community of just Amazon sellers across every type of, I mean, Helium 10 has its own. A lot of other of the thought leaders have their own groups on Facebook just specifically for Amazon sellers. Stephen Black had his own. I think once we start to see those and we start to see the collaboration between all the communities, again, just on the same level that they do for Amazon, but for Walmart, we'll just see that massively take off. And we'll start to see the service providers listen to that and see what's needed. What is Amazon providing? What are the pain points? So I'm excited to see what's going to happen next. Those keywords that I'm really interested to see, because it's not about the products like you're saying, it's or the method. The Jungle Scout method, I guess what I'm going to start calling it also. It's about the keywords and doing that keyword research. Do you think, when do you think is a good time to start to plan out listing your products that are on Amazon onto Walmart?
That's a really, really tough question, because not every product on Amazon is going to be good for Walmart. I mean, I could spend 4 hours going through the validation process, and I won't have time for that. But there is some good information coming up. If you guys want to follow everybody listening, follow my social media. Probably in 2 weeks, you're going to start seeing some content drop, whether it's on my YouTube channel or personal social media, that will answer that specific question. Like, how do we go and validate if this is going to be good for Walmart? Again, Walmart right now is a little bit slower. There's less users, there's less sales, but we want to be in at the ground floor, right? A lot of the more consumer commodity-based stuff, a lot of fashion is really good. You know, we don't see people going to Walmart.com for really crazy niche-specific electronics, but they're going for a lot of the stuff that, frankly, is crazy saturated on Amazon, but is not saturated on Walmart.
Does Target not also have a third-party seller program?
They do, and they've announced it just in the past maybe 6 or 9 months, but it is 2 or 3 years behind Walmart. And I also think Target has always been a little bit snooty, right? Like even just the store experience, Target has always been a lower or a smaller catalog, but maybe higher quality brand presence. That doesn't work for e-commerce platforms, because they all need to follow that kind of Amazon flywheel. More products, more sellers, lower prices, more buyers, more catalog opportunities. Like, you need all those things to start really wrapping around and spinning this thing up. And Target, in my opinion, doesn't follow that model. You know, where Walmart is trying to put a store in every city in the US, Target's not. Target's like, we're going to be snobby and have a store here and a store here. You have to be very exclusive to use us or to want to come to our store, right? That's kind of always the vibe they had. And that just doesn't bode well with an e-commerce platform, the ability to ramp up. And also, I think they're 4 or 5 years behind Walmart when it comes to even their e-commerce infrastructure. So yeah, they may be a player, but they're like Wayfair or Chewy. You know, are they an e-commerce platform? Sure. Is it going to be something that mainstream online sellers are going to flock to because there's huge opportunity? No. Some people have success, but it's never going to go mainstream.
I was just thinking, because I feel like for certain, and it would be, you know, niche categories or niche products, but like for certain items, I will specifically not go to Walmart for it because I'm wanting something that is going to be a little bit higher quality, and I will go to the Target for it.
Yep.
So yeah.
So
Snooty alert.
I think there might be some opportunities, but I'm not sure that it's going to be a game changer.
Gotcha. And yes, sometimes I do want to be snooty friends.
Yeah, we all need to be bougie occasionally, right?
Every once in a while. Come on.
I just shopped on Walmart.com this past Sunday, actually. And I didn't even think it was e-commerce because I did pick it up in store. But they were not name brand products. Or one of them was a Walmart brand, but the other one was like a power drill. Amazon had it, but it was 2 days. So just like the innovation and, hey, I could just go pick it up down the street. I don't want to wait for it. They're going to put it in my car once I get there, which is nice. But yeah, no, that logistical infrastructure that they have is definitely something amazing. It's something that's going to be really hard to compete for Amazon unless they deploy those drones. Then I just think the concept of a drone delivering my thing within a day is just cool. So I'll probably buy something for that same day shipping just because of that. Do you what do you see as the future for sort of this e-commerce and the marketplace space?
Man, that's a hard question to answer. I have no idea. I do think that there will continue to be a further separation between marketplaces and platforms. Marketplaces being your Amazon, Walmart, eBay, and a platform being like your BigCommerce, your Magento, your WooCommerce on Shopify. The difference being one has their own traffic, one you have to generate your own traffic, right? People come to Walmart.com, they're coming to Walmart.com. People come to your Shopify store, you have to get them there first. I think there's pros and cons to both, of course. But I think that people will start to figure out they're either a better fit for a marketplace or a better fit for building their own, you know, e-commerce platform. And I think that we'll start to see a bigger chasm between the two when it comes to just operations and the type of products that you want to sell in your entire business model, right? I think the days are starting to dwindle when the game plan is sell on Walmart and then migrate to Shopify. I don't think that's always the case. I think that it's either going to be sell on Walmart and other marketplaces or build your own e-commerce presence and try to run that. And the type of product you have and even like your capital and your marketing prowess is going to help determine which one's going to be better.
And that is a solid note to end on. Because I was about to ask, I'm like, wait, what's the difference between a marketplace and a platform? Beautifully succinct answer. Awesome. And like I said, we are right at the top of our hour. I just totally blanked on the end of my spiel. Oh my God. What do you want to tell the people about? I'd like we said, you're involved in so many things, sellers, funding, private label, Legion, AMPM podcast. Let's just take a minute to kind of let the folks know where to get a hold of you. You had said your social media. Where are you most active? LinkedIn or Facebook or?
LinkedIn is good. Facebook is good. I don't get message requests very often just because I get so many of them and I tend to ignore them. LinkedIn's a better place to directly message me. But if you just want to get more involved in kind of what we're doing, go to the free Facebook group, Private Label Legion. It's not a huge group. We don't have tens of thousands of members because we, frankly, weeded out pretty heavily. We have massive engagement on it. Really solid folks. PrivateLabelLegion.com is a great resource to go to just see what we're doing. We've got everything from podcasts and blogs to swag shops to links to other social media things that myself and Norm do. And then we even have a group mastermind coaching program, so to speak, group mastermind community, which is growing and is doing really, really cool stuff. So yeah, PrivateLabelLegion.com, Private Label Legion Facebook group, or track me down on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And as always, we're going to link that URL in the description of the video and of the audio episode. Tim, thank you so much for coming on the show. We've really appreciated it. And I know everybody listening either live or in the rewatch has learned so much from you. So thank you.
Great. And thank you guys for putting it together. I know how much work goes into this, and don't take that for granted. Don't take that lightly. So thank you guys for what you do as well.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very kind.
Thanks, Tim.
And for anybody out there who likes what they heard today or on any of the episodes of the show, please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and ring that bell so that you receive notifications on any and all of the conversations that we have with leaders in supply chain and e-commerce like Tim Jordan. So Tim, thank you again so much. And we hope that everybody has a great rest of their day.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.